10 Wes Craven films. So they're not necessarily all his horror films, but they are my top 10 favourite Wes Craven films. So starting off at the bottom, we have Swamp Thing. So this is sort of Wes Craven's take on superhero, kinda. So the storyline to Swamp Thing is it's this brilliant scientist working in a swamp, and what he believes is going to be the cure for world hunger, because he thinks that this plant cure that he has is going to solve the world hunger problems. But unbeknownst to him, there's a rival scientist that's wanting to steal the idea from him, and basically they douse him in chemicals, leave him for dead, but his own formula saves him, and he comes back part man, part plant, all superhuman. Yeah, I think it's really enjoyable. It is cheesy, but it is really an enjoyable movie. It's got Adriana Balboa, if I can say her name correctly, the woman for The Fog and Escape from New York, and it's got Krug from Last House on the Left in it, so it's got a good cast. And then in position 9, I have The Serpent and the Rainbow. So this is Wes Craven's take on voodoo. So it's basically about a scientist again who's travelled to this part of the world where apparently they have found this ritual that brings people back to life, and this is his kind of trippy experience of that, because he starts seeing things and experiencing things that he can't explain, and it's very good. It's got a really good soundtrack to it, a really good sort of the dream sequences in the Serpent and the Rainbow are fantastic. I'm not the biggest fan of Bill Pullman, but I think he's really good in this movie, and excuse me. And if you've never seen it, then this and you like voodoo, then this is definitely a movie for you. And then we've got in position 8, Deadly Blessings. So Deadly Blessing is basically about a young couple who go to, see if I can remember this actually. Yeah, it's about a woman that marries into a close-knit community. I'm guessing it's like I'm pretty sure it's Amish, but I might be wrong here. And she starts to experience things going horribly wrong. So her husband dies, and then her friends come to comfort her and help her, and they start to discover that not everything is what it seems in this community. They've got a excuse me, a very dark secret, and it becomes all spills out near the end what this dark secret is. Someone's been trying to be something that they're not. But if I say anything more than that, I'm going to give it away. This also has some really creepy dream sequences in it, this one here, and I think what's really good about it is the fact that it is set in a sort of community which is isolated from everyone else, so you have this feeling of abandonment, that you're stuck, you have to deal with that situation you're in because there isn't anyone else that's going to come and help you. I am so sorry. Trust me, get a croaky throat just as I press record. And then next up we have the first of the Scream movies. So obviously Wes Craven did all 4 Scream movies. Unfortunately I don't think all 4 were worthy of being in this list. Number 4 in my opinion is though, I think, especially following on from part 3, because part 3 was awful, I'm not gonna lie. I think the only thing that was good about part 3 was the fact that it was the same ghost face killer running about killing people, but the storyline was terrible. So Sydney's mum had another child and gave him up while she was a Hollywood star, and it was awful. And then he came back to seek revenge, and it turned out he'd actually set up all of the things that had happened to Sydney throughout all the movies. In my opinion, Scream 4 is what Scream 3 should have been, because I think the storyline to this one makes a hell of a lot more sense, especially in today's society where everybody thinks that they're a superstar. I mean, with Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all these things, literally everybody thinks they're a celebrity because, you know, they've got people liking them, or everybody feels that they need to put their whole life on Facebook, for example. I mean, how many people do you know put what they had for the dinner online just to prove that they actually went out for dinner? No more can you say I did it and people would believe you. You have to actually have photo evidence. Well, that's kind of what Scream 4 plays on, is that she is like the niece, Sydney's niece is obsessed with the fact that Sydney got so famous because of what happened to her, and she wants that same famousness. So famousness, is that even a word? But she wants to be as famous as Sydney, no matter the cost. And she sets up all these elaborate I know I'm kind of spoiling it a little bit here, but she sets up all this elaborate sort of fights and death scenes, etc., purely and simply because she wants to be famous. But Scream 4 is actually one of the only movies that I've ever gone to the cinema and there's been a standing ovation at the end of it, because I think that, as I said, following so many bad other movies that came before, including its own sequels, Scream 4, in my opinion, was a breath of fresh air. It was a really, really enjoyable movie. Okay, so moving on before my voice completely gives up on me. We're going to move on to Last House on the Left. So this is actually Wes Craven's first movie, and it's a brutal film. What I always remember about Last House on the Left, because it's actually been a wee while since I've seen it, was that he perfectly played scenes of the stupid police officers being daft that made you laugh, spliced in with scenes of what was happening to the two girls, obviously being tortured and assaulted, and it really messed with your emotions, because you spent half the movie thinking, laugh, don't laugh, laugh, don't laugh, and it was really horrible. I think the ending to this movie is phenomenal, just with the parents going absolutely crazy. I mean, the penis biting scene, let's just say nobody, I don't think, is ever going to forget that, male or female, because it's a scene that totally sticks out. Casting as Krug, I don't even know what that actor's called, I just call him Krug, that's terrible. David Hess. So David Hess, the casting was perfect. I mean, he plays a perfect bad guy. And it's a shame, really, because from this movie onwards, like, you can never imagine him starring in a role where he's a good guy, let's face it, because he just became the personification of evil after being in this film. But yeah, Last House on the Left, what a fantastic first movie for Wes Craven to come out with, and it was him and Sean Cunningham that did this together. Obviously Sean Cunningham went on to do Friday the 13th, and Wes Craven went on to do Nightmare on Elm Street, so yeah, it's definitely not a movie that you're going to forget anytime soon. So I'd say if it's a movie that you've never seen before, prepare yourself for what you're about to envision. Certainly there's a lot of movies out there now that adopt the torture porn. This isn't like that, but it definitely plays on your emotions, and it's very raw feeling, but it's excellent, and you're not going to forget how scary but also how brilliantly done this movie is at any time soon. So moving on to the next one, now I'm going to have to set this box set out twice because I don't have these movies individually, I've only got them in a box set. So I'm just trying to open up the part so you can see which one I'm going to here. Oh wait, I don't think it's going to matter because they're on multiple discs. Right, so I'll just do this. Okay. Nightmare on Elm Street collection. So it's actually the new Nightmare which I'm going in here for. I loved the new Nightmare. I'm a big Nightmare on Elm Street fan, but I remember the very first time that I seen, because the very first Nightmare movie that I seen was part 3, because my cousins used to play it every time I came over, and especially Philip Puppeteer scene, that scared the life out of me. But like very many other Nightmare on Elm Street fans, the series, I also feel that the series got very silly. By the time it got 4, 5, 6 especially, it's silly. I mean, it's good to watch, it's just a bit of silliness to watch, but it got really silly. It lost the original scariness that even part 2 still had, but 1 and 3 definitely had that scary feel. So when New Nightmare came out, I expected it to be silly, like all the other ones that had come before. But what a fantastic idea the New Nightmare was, that people believing in this Freddy Krueger figure had made him real. And now that the movies had stopped, he was now finding a way to come back into real life. And that they had the real head of Langenkamp, the real John Saxon, the real Robert Englund, the real Wes Craven, they had all of the people playing themselves. Obviously, bits of Head of Langenkamp's life was a little bit made up, like that wasn't really her husband, although her real husband is a makeup effects man, and that wasn't her real son. But Hugo, oh god, I can't remember the kid's name now. What's his name? Michael Hughes, that's it. Michael Hughes. He's fantastic as a kid. I mean, he's a kid for Kindergarten Cop and Spawn and Pet Sematary. He's a great little kid actor. Not so much a little kid actor now, but he's fantastic in that. And I will never forget the babysitter scene, because I just always, everybody liked Julie. It wasn't nice to see Julie getting killed. But even though not that many people die in the New Nightmare, it's still a phenomenal movie, and I think the idea was way ahead of its time, and that's probably why it didn't do as well as it should have, because it was ahead of its time. Well, at least I feel like it was, but for me, I think New Nightmare's one of the best, definitely the best after the first one, because obviously the first one's the original idea. New Nightmare's definitely, in my opinion, right up there with the original Nightmare on Elm Street. It's an amazing movie. Okay, so we're moving on to The Hills of Ice. So, The Hills of Ice is a movie that I'm just making room here. A movie that I always wanted to see when I was a kid, because it's a movie that scared my mum. She always used to tell me that whenever we were out in a drive somewhere, if we were going through hills, for example, she would always be like, "Oh no, the hills have got eyes. The people in the hills are going to get us," because that's the movie that scared her when she was a kid. It's again an amazing idea. It's Wes Craven's second feature, about his family who take a wrong turn. They're actually guided in that wrong turn, and a bunch of inbred family attack them. But the way in which it's done is truly terrifying, and the ending of this movie is fantastic. I love the dogs in it. I love the Beauty and the Beast thing with the dogs, and the dog comes back and helps them. And I do love that the way that the people die, you don't expect them. I mean, there's characters that are killed in this that you just don't expect to die, and that definitely is unsettling and unnerving. But yeah, absolutely love The Hills of Ice. And then we have The People Under the Stairs. So this is another movie from childhood that I just remember absolutely loving. It creeped me out, this idea of this rich family who, in this story, is actually brother and sister as well as obviously partners, stealing children and trying to make a perfect child, and every time they're not perfect, they either, cut out their tongue or cut off their ears or cut out their eyes and keep them in the basement. But the daughter's the only one that is perfect until this kid breaks in, quite similar to Don't Breathe, that's just come out in the cinema, that they break into the house expecting to be lots of money and don't quite expect to what they end up getting. But yeah, The Hills of Ice is an absolute fantastic. The makeup in it's amazing. The castings in it is amazing, because the brother and sister are cast from Twin Peaks. It's I can't remember the characters from Twin Peaks. I don't think my brain's quite recovered from yesterday yet, but it's the woman with the eye patch from Twin Peaks and her husband who star as the characters in this. And even the kids are phenomenally casted in this movie. Right, so we're going on to my top two, and I think you can kind of guess what the top two is, considering I've not been put down yet. So we've got Scream. So Scream is in second position because it is a movie that relit the horror genre in the 90s. It was dying. Let's face it, all the movies that were coming out before Scream came along were crap. And Scream kind of came along. It was cheeky because it said, look, this is the formula for horror films. I know this is the formula for horror films, and this is what I'm going to do with the formula for horror films. And it was very clever by doing that, because it broke its own rules. The lead character had sex and she survived, but the way it was done was amazing. And I don't think there's a single person out there that hasn't seen Scream, so I don't think I really need to say all that much about it, other than the opening sequence to this is probably the most shocking thing in it. I mean, you put an actress like Drew Barrymore in it, you expect to see her in it till the end of the movie. Not in Scream, but she gets definitely the worst death scene in this, in my opinion. And then we'll move on to position one, which is Nightmare on Elm Street. So, Nightmare on Elm Street is the ultimate movie that scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. And the thing that's very clever about Nightmare on Elm Street is most people watched it before going to bed. So you then go to bed and have to think about this guy that kills you in your sleep, and that's what's so clever about Freddy Krueger. I think it is fantastically cast with Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. I can't imagine anybody else playing him, and obviously we've seen an attempt at somebody else playing him and it just didn't work. But Nightmare on Elm Street, if you haven't seen it already, then there's definitely something wrong with you. You need to go and watch this movie. It is a phenomenal movie, and it will forever be the movie that Wes Craven is remembered ultimately by. That and probably my top three. That's Screaming People Under the Stairs, but well, that's my feeling. But obviously, Hills of Eyes and Last House on the Left are in there as well. But definitely my favourite Wes Craven movie of all time has got to be A Nightmare on Elm Street, and hopefully you agree. leave some comments. Please like and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.